Hi, everyone. Welcome back to She Blurbs podcast. Today's guest is Wendy Hawkins. So, Wendy, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I can. I'm an indie author publisher. I'm living in Canada, just east of Vancouver, on an eco farm, which is kind of fun, out in the country. It's a little bit different. And yeah, and I write edgy urban fantasy with a little bit of murder and a little bit of thrillers. I'm kind of a genre defying writer, so there's a lot going on in my books. I've got a series out right now of 4 that are called the Hollystone Mysteries. And they actually follow a Wicca coven from Vancouver that solve murders and go on a lot of adventures abroad. So yeah. So I started out with To Charm a Killer, and in that book, they're in BC. There's a man murdering women, witches, and so they spin a charm to catch the killer, and someone gets caught up in their charm because, with witchcraft, you have to be really careful about what you do. And they end up in Ireland in that book, mostly because I really love Ireland. So I go there as much as I can.
Really? You've been to Ireland? I want to go. I've never
Oh,
been.
oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And I go there to research. Yeah. Yeah. You'll want to go after we finish talking because my books have so much about that. So that one takes place in Ireland. The second one is all of my books have to do with archaeology and myth because that's really what I love the most. And so the second one takes place at Kilmartin Glen in Scotland.
Wow.
Which is where the standing stones are, the Outlander stones. And it's one of the coven fellas who's there on an archaeological dig, and he gets charged with murder. So he has to call in the high priest from the coven, who is my major protagonist. He calls him in to get him out of jail, basically. He's in a really bad place. So that one is a kind of a murder mystery. And then the third one takes place, it's called To Render a Raven, and it takes place on the British Columbia coast. And that's a bit of a spin-off from the second one, because while my protagonist Estrada was away in Scotland solving this murder, his lover in BC got into some trouble with a vampire. So yeah, urban fantasy is fun because you have all kinds of different people. So the vampire in revenge steals Estrada's baby, and they have to take a yacht up the BC coast to get this baby back. So that's the third one. And in the fourth one, I end up back in Ireland again. Only it's the latest one, and it's this one right here. And I think you can see that. To Kill a King, and it takes place in 200 BC. So Iron Age Ireland with druids, and it's pretty interesting. It has a lot of archaeological evidence in it, and I always go to everywhere I write about. So yeah, so I spend a lot of time over in Ireland doing that, going to these places that end up in my books. Yeah.
How long did it take for you to research, for your book?
Yeah, well, the last one, I went there in 2017, and it started out because I had seen Old Croghan Man, which is a mummified torso and fist of an actual artifact that they pulled out of the bog in Ireland, and it is actually in the museum in Ireland, in the National Museum. So I was looking at this in a National Geographic one night, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it fascinated me to see that it looks like a leather suitcase with arms, but the hands and the fists are still totally preserved, fingerprints, manicured nails. He's wearing a leather armband, but his bottom is missing and his head is missing. So I immediately thought, what happened there? Like, what's his story? Right. And And so I did some research online and found Dr. Eamon Kelly, who has written quite a bit. He's an archaeologist from Ireland, has written quite about kingship and sacrifice. So his theory is that these kings were inaugurated on the tops of these hills we're talking prehistoric Ireland. And then if things didn't work out for some reason, they would sacrifice them, ritually sacrifice them. So in a very like overkill kind of a way. And then, so they're sacrificing them to the goddess. And it's usually because of something like bad weather, things like that, or somebody else wants your job. But usually it's something about weather change or whatever. So that's what happened in here. So I wanted to tell his story, so I sent my archaeologist back there in a kind of a fun way. God gives her a gift. One of the Cernunnos, the ancient horn god, gives her a gift. He says, "I'll send you to any culture you want to go to, anywhere in the world." And yeah, wouldn't that be cool?
That is, wow.
like trying to decide where you'd want to go. That's
yeah.
Can you think of one right off the top?
Me, I want to go to Barcelona.
Oh, there you go. And any time in history, like, or now?
I don't know. I guess maybe, I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's because of the Cheetah Girls. So when the Cheetah Girls was there, but I don't know. Like maybe in 2017, maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know if I want to go back there like a lot way back when. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they had the Inquisition and everything there. Like it was kind of a scary place to to be, right? Yeah, for sure. So
yeah. When did you first realize you wanted to be an author?
Oh, I've always written poetry and articles and things like that. And then about 30 years ago, I wrote a novel for therapy because that's, you write novels because there's some reason, there's some reason that comes up. And I was actually in the middle of leaving my ex-husband, and I was writing this novel and to see if I could. And it turned out pretty good. I still have it. I found it a couple of years ago in like a sealed, round paper, because that's how we used to copyright things 30 years ago. Yeah, you would actually put all your, your typed pages that you printed in brown paper, seal it all up, mail it to yourself at the post office, and then stash it away. And then if anybody ever came back at you and said, "That was mine," you go, "Oh no, look, I have a postmark."
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Well, I go back a ways. So actually, when I was cleaning to move a couple of years ago, I pulled that out and I'm like, I'm going to read it. And it was quite enlightening. And I went, oh, it's a romance. So I sat down and I started rewriting it, and I got about, I don't know, maybe three or four chapters in before things kind of went off on their own tangent. But I've rewritten the whole thing now, and I'm just sending it out now to agents. So,
wow.
Yeah, I know. So you just never know, right? Keep your writing, because you never know when you can use it. It's the same characters, basically, the same names, a little bit of the same setting. I changed it a little bit, but a lot of it is the same, especially in the beginning. Of course, I've done a lot of revising because hopefully I'm a better writer now. we don't know.
So what does your family think about your writing?
Oh, well, that's interesting. So actually, I have a lot of support from my family, and my daughter's been great. She's been there all along the way to help me, and she's actually my go-to person for physical things that happen in the book. because I'm like super klutzy and not physical. So, I bounce off walls and end up with mysterious bruises and don't know the parts of the body and things like that. And she's the exact opposite. So she's a CrossFitter and a massage therapist.
Wow.
So yeah. So I will call her up and say, I just actually did and said, how far could, this is for this new book I just finished, how far could a guy in really good shape carry like 150-pound buck over his shoulders if he's walking through the bush?
Wow.
She's like, well, how big is he? So we ended up saying, he couldn't probably take more than 150 pounds if he's walking for a couple of hours, and he would have to stop and rest along the way.
Oh.
Yeah. Or I'll get together with her for fight scenes, because I don't know how that works. So I'm like, okay, if the guy's getting hit across the back of the knees with a broadsword, which way is he going to fall? And so she'll say, because I want him to fall into that pool, so I want him to fall forwards. She's like, well, he won't fall forwards if you hit him in the back of the knees. Mm-hmm. So you have to have somebody kick him from the side at the same time. Yeah. Like that kind of thing. Yeah. So she's been great. She's, of course, read everything, and she usually has to listen to it as I'm writing it. So the last book, the To Kill a King book, she said, Mom, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to read it. Because, you get really excited as an author. You're like, I wrote this part, listen. And she's like, no. No.
She's like, not today.
No. She's like, no. So she did just read the whole thing. Because now it's in print. She said, I want to wait. And she said, oh, that was actually the most fun I had ever reading one of your books, because I didn't know what was going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So can you give us a brief summary of your novels? I know you gave us a little bit of it, but can you give us a brief summary of them?
Of all of them, or just the last one?
The last one.
The last one. Yeah. So as I said, in the last one, the archaeologist, her name's Sorka, she's contemporary. She's pretty feisty, fiery Irish archaeologist that does things her own way. She spends a weekend at Beltane with the Horned God. This comes out of book 2. And as I said, he says, I'll take you anywhere. So in the beginning of this book, she wakes up with him in Iron Age Ireland and realizes that, this is not, we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto, right? Like something's going on here. And she's in the middle of a cattle stampede, and she gets picked up by this fella on a horse, kind of scoops her up to save her from the stampeding cattle, and realizes that this is the fella that she had seen in a vision when she went to the Dublin Museum and touched his armband when she was 14. Okay. So she knows that this is old Croghan man, the man that's going to be ritually murdered and cast in the bog. And she had kind of fallen in love with him and decided to become an archaeologist when she first saw that vision of him. So, 15 years later, when she sees him and she's with him on his horse, she's like, whoa, I have to warn him, or I have to stop him from being killed, because she knows that this horrible, horrible murder is going to happen to him. Mm-hmm. So that's the story follows her journey. Now there's a dual storyline, because Estrada, who is my main protagonist through all the books, mm-hmm. he's also in this story. And he, at the end of the third book, it was just really tragic for him. I can't really say what happens, but I left him in a really bad place. Yeah. And I didn't know where he was or what he was doing. And I was busy writing another book. And then one night I just said, where are you? What are you doing? Right. The next morning I woke up and I knew where he was and what he was doing and everything else. So I said, okay, you're writing the wrong book. So this To Kill a King actually has him in it as well. So he's in Los Angeles, and when he finds out that Sorcha is in Iron Age Ireland and stuck there, and he knows what she's like, he knows she's going to get into major trouble with these druids because of who she is. He makes the horned god send him back too. So he time travels back too. So I've got these two storylines that kind of, they come together, and then they have to get out of Ireland somehow. Like, can he save her and get her out of there? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. That sounds like a type of book I would like to read. It kind of reminds me of kind of a little bit of like Lord of the Rings, like a fantasy type book.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, they use magic.
Yeah.
It's not fantasy in the, well, wait a minute. I guess, I mean, the thing is that these characters all have a little bit of powers to them. So Sorcha, it has psychometry. So when she touched the metal mounts on old Croghanman's armband, that's how she had the vision. And yeah, and then I have another character who, when he touches stones, he can see and feel what the stones have gone through.
Oh wow.
So that's what's happening with him in To Sleep with Stones in Ireland, or sorry, in Scotland.
Oh.
So they all have powers. Estrada can do a lot of different things. He's a bit of a shifter in that he can put his mind into like a raven. He does some interesting things with fire. He's learned to kind of, I mean, he's a magician, like a real life magician, contemporary wise. So he's used to fireballs and flash powder, but he's also, as the high priest of Hollystone Coven, he also has some powers where he can kind of summon up fire now when he needs to use it.
Wow.
So in that way, there is a touch of fantasy. Now, when they go back to Iron Age Ireland, where the people had no tattoos, so Sorcha is wearing this tattoo on her back, which has a fairy in it. I don't know, you probably can't see it too well, but this is like so showing up in Iron Age Ireland with this on your back, and Estrada has this on his back from his glutes, or his shoulders to his glutes. So when they show up as contemporary people in 200 BC, the people in Ireland think they're fairies.
Oh.
Right? Wow. Yeah. Because mythologically, in that time period, they would believe in the fairies. They would think, oh, there's these parallel race of fairies that were gods and are out there. And the fairies often in the myths would come and interact with the humans. So, of course, the people in Ireland want their power.
Yes.
Yeah, they're like, okay, we don't know why you guys are here, but we want to use your power, like wherever you're here. So that's something that both of them get involved in there. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That sounds like a really amazing story.
Thank
I
you.
do have a question. What advice would you give to help others who are wanting to pursue a writing career like yourself?
Right. Well, first of all, find out what you love to do and do a lot of reading. And I think that most writers are readers first. And so really find out, of all the things, what you love. Make sure whatever you're writing is something that you really do love, because I will tell you, it stays with you forever.
Yes, it does.
You know, you don't want to write something that you're now bored with, because, you know, you're going to be talking about it and it's going to follow you wherever you go. And then I would say, go to conferences, join groups where you can get a lot of feedback from people and get other people's eyes on your work.
Yes.
Really important.
That's good. That's really good advice.
Yeah. If you can't afford like an editor, then at least get beta readers and people who aren't your family and friends. Don't inflict them.
Yeah, yeah, because I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Um, I want to thank you so much, Wendy, for being a guest on my show today.
Thank you.
You have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Hey everyone, I want to thank you all so much for being supportive of my podcast. I want to thank you all so much for listening to me and Wendy's interview. If you have any questions about any of her books, or if you want to know how to purchase them, or if you want to know more about Wendy and what she likes to do and enjoys doing and enjoys writing, I have tinkered the link below. It is scrolling through. So you can go on her website and contact her that way or purchase her books that way. I want to thank you all so much for your support. I really greatly appreciate it. I hope you all have a great day.